You know, Mike, I really believe in like UFOs and aliens and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, alien abductions, just I don't buy it. Why is it always like the dumbest person that gets abducted? It's always like the little nobody that gets abducted who just all of a sudden like, why the aliens care about them? Like, they're just dumb people that just keep getting abducted.
He said it.
Oh, man. Am I dumb?
Yeah.
Take me away. This is Fire in the Sky.
Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Butler.
And I'm Mike Field.
And you're listening to Forgotten Cinema. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the film simply didn't catch on with audiences in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or maybe don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. You never know, you might find your own forgotten gem. If you enjoy Forgotten Cinema, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We're on all platforms with a backlog of over 250 episodes for your listening or viewing pleasure.
What's going on?
Nothing, you know, I was cutting down some logs with my chainsaw, even though there weren't all that many trees, but apparently I couldn't make the deadline for cutting down these trees when all of a sudden at the end of the night, I saw this, it looked like the forest was on fire. And I decided, hey, let's drive through it. Turned out it wasn't on fire. It was just a UFO. So, you know, I did what any sane person would do. And I walked right underneath that UFO and went, look at it, guys. And I got knocked on my ass. The aliens took me, and my best friends drove off without coming to check on me.
Well, they drove off before the aliens took you.
That's right.
So there you go.
So they did have a chance to save me, but they chose to puss out and run.
That's right. We're doing the 1993 film Fire in the Sky. You had never seen it before?
Never seen it before.
Never heard of it?
I had heard of it. That's why I put it on the list.
We should say that we are playing injured today. I am fighting a cold, and Mr. Butler here has a weak back because he's soft and he's old. So if we're not as energetic as possible, we apologize, but we're going to try to be. We're going to fight through it.
I got caffeine right here. I'm good, man. A caffeine and a heating pad on my back.
Let's get into it. Fire in the Sky has a runtime of 109 minutes, rated PG-13, production budget of $15 million. It came out on March 12th, 1993. That was a Friday. I was 17.
I was 5?
Nice.
6.
Those were the days. Opening weekend, it did $6 million. Domestic, 19.8. I don't think it had an international release, and so its worldwide total is the same as domestic, $19.8 million. Distributed by Paramount Pictures. So let's go to the other movies that open around that weekend. So we said it came out on the 12th. Let's pop back to the 5th of March, 1993. We had a wide release of Best of the Best 2, Amos and Andrew, and Mad Dog and Glory. Did you see any of those, Butler? You never seen Amos and Andrew with Nicolas Cage?
I've heard the title of it, but I've never seen it, or do I know anything?
Nicolas Cage and Samuel L. Jackson, I think. Yes. A limited release that week, you had Swing Kids and Shadow of the Wolf. The 12th, the weekend that this film came out, you had a wide release of A Far Off Place and CB4. That's the Chris Rock spoof, kind of like a rap spoof. It's almost like Michael McKean's in it, the older one. Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap. It's kind of like that.
But it's like the rap version of Spinal Tap.
Yep. They also had a limited release of Ethan Frome. The week after, the March 19th, you had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
Hey.
There you go. Blake knows that
Turtles
one.
in Time.
And Point of No Return. This film was directed by Robert Lieberman, who's done D3, The Mighty Ducks, and then he's done some episodes in the TV show The Expanse. A show that we watch here. Mm-hmm. Written by Tracy Torme, who's done TV show Sliders, a TV show Carnival, and some Star Trek Next Generation.
Watched Sliders and Next Generation.
You never saw Carnival?
I never watched Carnival.
Carnival is pretty good. I think it got canceled a little too early, but Carnival is pretty good. I can't say the same about Sliders. I wanted to love Sliders so bad, and I could never do it.
I probably couldn't watch Sliders now, but when I was a kid, I really loved it. The concept is awesome.
The concept is good, but I think we've talked about this in the show before. Like, I love Quantum Leap because at the end of the episode, you're like, oh, that's the next week's episode. And Sliders did that, and they never did. Yeah, Sliders.
They occasionally did, but rarely. Yeah.
No. Boo. This is based on a novel. So the lead character, who is D.B. Sweeney's character, which we'll get to, actually wrote a book, and this is based on that, called The Walton Experience. And we'll get into that in the facts and whatnot, because there's some discrepancies there. Cinematographer was Bill Pope, who's done The Matrix, Spider-Man 2, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Composer was Mark Isham, who was nominated for an Oscar for A River Runs Through It, and he also did The Accountant. Edited by Steve Merkovich, who's done Con Air, Escape Room, and Big Trouble in Little China. And produced by Todd Black and Joe Wizen. Black has produces most of Denzel Washington's films. He also did Southpaw. He was nominated for an Oscar for Fences, because that was nominated for Best Picture. And Wizon has done Jeremiah Johnson and Kiss the Girls, to name a few. Not a big cast, which I thought it was. For some reason, I thought there were a lot of people in this film. There are faces you recognize, but not too many. So D.B. Sweeney is the lead as Travis Walton. Travis is the one that is abducted in this film. He's from The Cutting Edge, of course, 8 Men Out, and Memphis Belle. Robert Patrick as Mike Rogers from T2. TV show X-Files, and the movie The Faculty. Craig Sheffer as Alan Dallas from The Program, Nightbreed, and the TV show One Tree Hill. Peter Berg as David Whitlock, TV show Chicago Hope, the movie Very Bad Things, and The Last Seduction, which is an episode we did on the show.
Indeed.
Henry Thomas as Greg Hayes from E.T., Legends of the Fall, and 1114, another episode we did. Bradley Gregg as Bobby Cogdill, who's in Stand By Me, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Stand By Me, he was Eyeball Chambers. He was River Phoenix's character's brother.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you had Noble Willingham as Blake Davis. He was the sheriff in this movie. So if you see his face, you're probably like, oh, that guy looks familiar. In a ton of things. TV show Walker, Texas Ranger, the older one with Chuck Norris, and movie City Slickers. James Garner as Frank Waters. This is probably our first James Garner film, Butler. He's in the TV show and the movie Maverick. And he also is in the TV show The Rockford Files. And then Kathleen Willowhoit. I mean, I probably said her name wrong. I apologize. Katie Rogers. She plays Mike Rogers' wife. She's in Roadhouse, which is an episode we did on our lead up for our Patreons, and The Edge, and Nurse Betty. So, and she has a familiar face. You've seen her in other movies.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, hit me with it. Cause I can, unless you want me to go first.
I could go first.
Okay.
I've also never seen this. Cause you have seen this movie.
I have seen this film.
So yeah, you go first.
So my history with this film is I saw this film and I saw this film in the theater. When I saw this film in the theater, I remember being very scared about it from this movie. This is one of the movies that I watched that I was like really disturbed by, probably because I partly believe in what a lot of stuff's going on in the movie.
Right.
It felt very real to me. It felt very visceral. So I think I was really like when the scenes when he's remembering what happened to him was really spooky. So watching it again, I didn't get that same, I wasn't really freaked out again, but I think my biggest takeaway is how much this feels like an X-Files episode when it starts. And then I'm like sitting there going, just the way it starts too, with the truck driving and speeding. I'm just like, wow, this feels like an opening to a show. And then I'm like, this has to be why I really liked this film back then, because X-Files was on back then. I loved that show. I loved it back then. Obviously, it was in the middle of its. I don't think we even got their movie yet because I was 95, I think. So like it was like when it was, it was like when it was like really kicking and cranking. And this movie came out. I'm just like, oh, this is like X-Files. So I think that's really what drew me to it. That's really what I kind of gravitated towards in this episode. There's some things I still like about it. I obviously have comments and questions, but in all, my second viewing of this was a generally positive experience. I'm not going to say it was overly positive, but it was definitely a positive experience. Michael?
Well, first of all, I really thought you would not enjoy this movie. So I'm
well, no, I mean, there's like, I think maybe part of me liking it is maybe a little nostalgia, but sure. Go ahead.
The alien stuff is really cool. I think that some of it it's too long. It's just too long. Some of it's a little repetitive.
You're talking not the whole movie, the alien scenes.
But the alien scenes are awesome.
All right.
The movie in the whole, I think a lot of scenes are somewhat repetitive. I think Robert Patrick's character, while he plays the character well, says kind of the same things over and over again.
Right.
So I have problems with it. Like reading stuff people talk about the film, a lot of people were scared of the movie, like found the alien sequences really terrifying.
Yeah.
I think having come from, 13 seasons of the X-Files, watching it since I was a kid, and just other things that have come since, I was not that freaked out about it. But seeing as how I talked about being scared of that homemade stupid UPN TV movie thing a few episodes back.
On our Forgotten Horror 6.
Horror 6. Yeah. I think that younger me would absolutely have been freaked out by the alien stuff. So I liked it. It definitely felt like an X-Files episode. I think it would have worked better as maybe an episodic thing. But it reminded me a little bit of an X-Files episode meets Steven Spielberg Presents Taken, which I loved that miniseries. But it was very similar how it deals with the aftermath of abduction almost as much as it does, probably more so than it does the actual abduction itself.
Where do you want to go first? Do you want to talk about the town and all that stuff or do you want to talk about the actual abduction scenes first? What do you want to talk about?
Let's go town people and then we'll get into the more interesting stuff.
So to your point, yeah, I thought that it almost felt like there wasn't enough in the real life story. Like I know it says it's based on the book, but there wasn't enough in the real life story where you're saying like Mike Rogers is repeating himself over and over again. There really wasn't a lot there to kind of mine.
Right.
For the story. So, and you have characters that even though like Henry Thomas is one of the guys, one of his character, Greg, and then you have Bradley who plays Bobby. So Bobby and Greg are like the other two of the crew and they don't have anything. They have nothing to do.
Yeah.
They're and David Whitlock, Peter Berg's character, is really just kind of the good friend to Mike Rogers. Like he's almost like the nerdy kid friend to them. And he's in the scenes, but he has nothing to do either.
He's the nerdy churchy guy, which I really thought they would put more into that about like religion versus like, there's a religious guy seeing aliens like that. Like you could have put some more into that. Mm-hmm. But like you said, there's 2 extra characters. And apparently in the original story, there were 7 of them.
My note is
and they took away 1 because that's too many. There's still too many.
I know. My note was like the writers whittled it down to 6. I was like, from 7? That's not whittling down. Yeah. But I guess they combined people into certain characters and they made up characters. It's like, come on, man. That's not. If you're gonna whittle it down to 3, okay, fine.
Yeah,
7 to 3, perfect.
I mean, all we care about is Mike and.
Well, that's all. Mike and Travis.
Mike and Travis, yeah.
I mean, even the Alan Dallas character, which is Craig Sheffer's role, he's interesting, but
we don't get to know him enough.
Yeah, and then they talk about how he's got that nick on his knuckle, and they don't. Oh, who'd you get that from, Travis? Well, we don't have a flashback.
Yeah, we never flash, but we flashed back before.
Yeah, I see. My thinking. See, this is how I feel when I'm watching. When I think about it, when I'm watching it, is I feel like they took the book and they took the stories in the book, and for some reason they got caught in the middle of, in terms of the people in the town,
right?
They got caught in the middle of trying to be true to what the story was and making up something else and making it more dramatic.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I almost feel like they made the mistake of trying to honor the story of the true story because it's not dramatic enough. And it's not like give me something like, okay, they lied, but like what really happened? Then you have to give me what really happened. And we don't, we just get that they escaped and you know what I mean? And people don't believe us. And then you have that scene where Mike Rogers walks into the church. Hey, this is ridiculous. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is such a stupid scene.
There's no way that actually happened. His speech is not very good. And like, say it to my face.
Yeah.
You're there, man. They kind of said it to your face. And in real life, they'd have said it to you.
Yeah, mob mentality was dictated that you were outnumbered. You're not making them feel bad. They're scared. They think you're lying. They think you killed your friend.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't somebody get in your face and go at you?
Absolutely. It was such a stupid scene.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff there that, like I said, I felt like they just kind of, I think they needed to write a little bit more. They needed to just make up something a little more. Stop trying to be truthful with it, because and we'll get to it on the converse, you made up everything in the abduction. So
so they didn't stick to the story when it came to the most important things.
Right. Go ahead.
Oh, like David should have been more religious. And then Dallas should have been we should have learned more about Dallas. There's a very interesting part where the, what do you call the lie detector guys? They have like a title.
Oh, I
don't remember what. Either way, the guy administering the lie detector test, he is talking to Dallas and says, "Do you hate or do you not like? Do you like
polygraph examiners?
Polygraph, the polygraph examiner. Do you hate Travis Walton?" And he's like, "Yes, but no."
Oh, right, right.
I want to know more about that. Then you're just exposing the fact that Dallas doesn't really hate. Like, is he jealous of Travis's happiness, or like, don't add that character moment if you're not going to have. There's no payoff there.
So Yeah, I don't know what the experts do in that situation when they give you the two answers. I would imagine they ask you it again and tell you to give me one answer.
Sure, yeah.
So, like the whole inconclusive. Well, clearly he's going to be inconclusive because he doesn't he's just
all over the place. Yeah.
I think that Dallas, David Whitlock, Mike Rogers, and Travis Walton should have been the four characters in this.
Mm-hmm.
And Absolutely. The other two he didn't need. And you just have those four characters and you can focus on each of their character arcs and I think you would have a stronger story if you focused on them. James Garner is who plays Waters, who plays the, not FBI, he's state or something.
His state investigator or something. His title is really weird.
And I get that he's a cynic and he doesn't believe anything, and that's fine. But his character is really one note. I hate, you are such pathetic losers. He just has this look on his face the entire movie.
Right.
Where he's just I get it. I know that's your character, but you just look like you don't care about anything.
You're going to slip up. I know you're going to slip up. And then when Travis appears, you're going to slip up.
Yeah.
I know you're going to slip up. And obviously he really hates Dallas because Dallas is all over him.
Yeah.
I agree.
And then there's a part where when they first tell the story, and I love how they were going to tell the same story. Well, it wasn't different. So you told the same story. Okay. and they tell what happened to their buddy. Travis is gone. They don't know what happened. Gardner shows up. And then he's walking out and he leans on their car and he just starts pulling stuff out of the vehicle. And dude, you have to have probable cause.
Yeah, you can't do that. They're not under arrest.
Okay. And then I go, okay, well, maybe plain sight, but a lawyer's gonna if you charge them, a lawyer's gonna have a field day with how you got that evidence.
Yep.
So there's no probable cause for you to just reach into their car and grab stuff.
This is 1973, man. Different time.
Well, 75.
75.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, you're right. Maybe that law really isn't in effect there. So I don't know.
The other thing that I wasn't a fan of is, so we're saying that Travis, and everyone is saying that Travis is the main character, right?
Supposedly.
But really, it's kind of Mike Rogers is the main character.
It is Mike.
So if we follow Mike Rogers through the story the whole time, and this is my problem with No Country for Old Men as well. We follow this one character throughout the whole thing, and then all of a sudden, nope, this guy was the main character.
I'm not here for this No Country for Old Men.
I understand that. But that's my frustration with that film. And I think that's similar to this film where all of a sudden it switches. But Travis, yes, he was abducted, but he's not our character. He's not who we're seeing the world through. And we just completely ignore Mike as soon as, obviously we get the epilogue, but we mostly just completely ignore Mike as soon as Travis comes back.
I don't mind that switch when it's done in other movies. And I know you said No Country for Old Men, but think about Psycho, when you think it's Janet Leigh and then Janet Leigh's murdered. The spoiler, Janet Leigh's murdered.
Sure.
And then it's not her. It becomes, the other character,
the sister.
Yeah. So stuff like that. I think with this film, I agree with you in this film.
Well, because he's still alive.
Well, not even that too.
Right.
DB Sweeney is playing Travis Walton as the goofball side character throughout the movie. He's so it's not like he becomes the main character even after the abduction. He's still the side character, and even though they've elevated him subconsciously or unconsciously in the script, in the film, it doesn't play well. And I agree with you there, because he still does the goofy kind of.
He's the goofy, hopeful, hey, Mike, and Mike's the boss, and Mike's is you're never going to marry my sister. Do you think that also possibly has something to do with the fact that maybe Robert Patrick is just such a good actor comparatively, not knocking DB Sweeney much, or also the fact that, do you think that's the reason that Lieberman did not want DB Sweeney originally as Travis Walton?
I saw that. Yeah. So Lieberman didn't want to cast Sweeney, and he didn't pick anyone. And then Sherry Lansing, our former boss, Sherry Lansing, who is the head of Paramount, basically told him days before they were going to start production, you either cast Sweeney or this movie's canceled. So he was kind of forced to cast him. I like DB Sweeney as an actor. I just don't think this is a good role for him. I think he's maybe even early in his career. You know what I mean? I think now DB Sweeney and stuff that he's been in now, he can get a little bit more serious. And I believe that a little bit more with time and age, and kind of you have to really grow into an actor,
kind of like you were just saying with what's his face from Scream, Shaggy.
Oh, Matthew Lillard. Yeah, I think some actors need a little age behind them. I think, and that's not a knock. We all blossom and bloom at different times, and you know what I mean. So I think that I think with the help of time, I think DB Sweeney could do that. But in this, I agree with you. I think that Robert Patrick is stronger in this role. I mean, even now, like case in point, like Robert Patrick now, I'm kind of not really a big fan of. Like he does a lot of the same stuff.
He kind of coasts.
Yeah, he does stuff where it's like generic bad guy stuff. I'm thinking of the Reacher series because he was in that season 2.
You're thinking of Reacher. I'm thinking of Reacher and Peacemaker.
Yeah,
he's just a racist version of the same character.
So he kind of does the same thing now, and it's too bad because early Robert Patrick is definitely much stronger.
It could just be he's not being given those roles.
That's true too, and then I'm not. Yeah, that he could not be given, or like you said, he's just like, I'm retired. I'm gonna just do this for the money. I'm just gonna, and that's great too. Do what you need to do, man. Take care of your family. But so the reverse is also the same. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I'm talking about DB Sweeney. Yeah. So, but but who was Lieberman? I want to know who Lieberman wanted.
See, I'm surprised. Here's the thing. I really like Peter Berg as an actor. I think Peter Berg would have made a really good Travis Walton.
This was early Berg, so he wasn't really like Chicago Hope hadn't started.
He wasn't like big yet, but
and he's more of a director
even as David Whitlock, I think he's got more chops than most of the other guys there. And I think the fact that he's almost always there with Mike in all the scenes is probably because he was strong enough he's stronger than Bradley Gregg, who played Bobby, and definitely stronger than Henry Thomas at that time.
Yeah.
Who played Greg. It's just like, well, we'll put David because Peter can act against you and it works.
Yeah. I think Berg's and
obviously Dallas does a really good job. Like he just
Craig Sheffer.
He plays a good asshole, which apparently he was on set. He was always late, pissing people off.
Oh, right. I saw that note too. Hey, get into the role. I get that. I like Berg as a director more than a writer. I mean, I think he's a good actor. I think he can do, he's a good action director. I mean, I like The Rundown.
Yeah, I love The Rundown.
I'm not going to say Battleship.
Battleship must have been all for the money.
Of course.
He's great, but he's also great. Like I love the movie, the Great White Hope.
Yeah.
With him. I think he's really good in that. Like I just think and like The Last Seduction, he's very good in.
Yep. We talked about him in that role. Yeah, he's really good there. I mean, he's clearly wearing fake glasses in this movie because if I can see the reflection on the glass lenses, it's like they're not real. So like really bad too. I'm just like, come on, dude. Like it's so bad that I'm like, did nobody in camera when you're shooting that scene go, wow, that's a bad reflection. We can't have that. Cause it was like, dude, not real glasses. So let's talk about the alien stuff.
Okay.
Now, one of the things I talked about obviously in the beginning of the show was that, it was really scary and blah, blah, blah. It was really real. And then I read the note and I'm like, God damn it. It wasn't at all real. So.
Oh, you mean the story behind it all?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I have this huge note and I don't know if I want to read the whole thing, but basically the gist of it is that Lieberman and the writer Tracy Torme didn't feel that the abduction scenes described in the Walton's book were dramatic enough.
That they were too similar to other abduction stories.
And Lieberman has come out and said that he really doesn't believe Walton's.
Well, we can get into that.
Yeah, too. Walton got abducted.
There's stuff about that as well.
So they added, all that stuff with on the ship and what happens to him is all made up, is all fake.
Somewhat. I mean, in the actual story, he does escape, kick one of the aliens and run down a hallway. He finds a human in a helmet who, without speaking to him, leads him into another room where the aliens get him again and start
probing him
and experimenting on him.
Yeah.
But like, it's just like a metal room. It's a classic UFO. So in that case, like he does kick that one alien and get dragged somewhere else. So it's a little bit the same, but yeah, it's very different stylistically and by looks.
Do you like what was in the movie?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It's really different. It's creepy. I mean, it doesn't explain a lot.
Explain to me. Yeah, I was like, what's the explanation behind putting people in those pods where they're going to be basically? I'm thinking of when he busts into one of the pods and see the dude's decaying. Is that the idea that they're just going to decay them and use them? Like, why?
But he gets dropped off.
He gets dropped off because he escaped. Yeah, I know. Like, I don't. It
doesn't really explain it. Or they just forgot that one dude was in the pod.
Yeah.
Oh man, we forgot to eject pod 7.
And I've heard the story before about how aliens look as their suits. Like, you know what I mean? That's not how they really. I've heard that story before.
That's definitely a theory. Yeah, that they don't actually look like that.
So
Which I thought was a cool that they added that in.
Right.
Cool.
So basically he wakes up in this pod almost like the Matrix style. He's got this goofy stuff on him. He escapes. The way the gravity works in the ship. I love
that he's trying to wipe it off every time he touches it. Because in all these other movies, they just leave it on. I go, in real life, you'd be.
And he's gravity switching. So when he goes in midway, then it flips over. So then he goes and they catch him. They catch him. They do the experience. You start seeing the stuff they're doing for him. Like, I really thought they were going to show that needle going into his eye. Thank God they didn't.
Oh, I was kind of disappointed they didn't. I was like, come on, Star Trek did it in first.
Well, they showed everything. They showed like when they put the stuff on his chest and on the side, and they put the insert there.
Sides. The tarp was really creepy.
Yes, they put this like tarp on him, and then they wet it and mist it, and it kind of keeps him still. It keeps him,
clings to him.
Yeah, they have to cut a hole.
Tight.
Like it's when they cut the hole, and he's got the scalpel, and they're cutting the hole in his mouth and his eyes, so you can see it's like it clearly looks like a dude in a suit. It's like, come on, man, you couldn't hold the knife a little bit better. But anyways, so they do all that, and then he escapes.
You don't even know if he escapes.
Well, he says they let him go.
Yeah. But then why did they let the decaying guy? Like, yeah, they don't explain that. And
I know where I was going with that.
Why is their ship so trashy?
I don't know. Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. So what they show in the movie, you know more about this than I do. Tell me what's similar. Tell me what's different. Tell me what is just you don't buy, you don't believe. Talk about what Walton wrote in his book. Go through all that a little bit for us.
Well, first of all, I totally believe in aliens. All the UFO stuff that's happening. I love it. I still really want to start my own YouTube channel about all this kind of stuff. But I don't really believe most alien abduction stories. I think most of those are kind of bogus. Kind of like I joked about in the opening, if we end up using it, is just like, I think it's people either trying to get their 15 minutes of fame or people who went through traumatic events.
Yeah.
And are just like, that's what
they use that.
They can't explain that people can be the monsters, so they have to create a monster.
Now, let me ask you a question. If you got abducted, would you tell anybody? No, right?
Maybe not, because no one would believe me.
It's none of my business. I don't. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Unless I can get a book deal out of it. If I can make some money off of it. But other than that.
Bogus. All right, go ahead.
So Travis Walton claims that he was abducted. He claims that a lot of the stuff that happened at the beginning, they saw a fire in the field. They went into it. He got abducted. His friends drove off. And he claims that he was just in this metal room, I think on this metal table, gets up, looks around. These aliens come up to him and he kind of fights them off. I believe the way he describes them, they are like the regular Greys. So he goes into this observatory type room and he's looking around and he sees a human in basically a spacesuit, a human in a helmet. I'm pretty sure he says that the human doesn't say anything to him, but motions him down some way. So he follows him because he's the only human he sees, obviously. They go down.
Motions him.
Come. And she's like, all right. They go down, and of course, he just leads them back to the aliens who take him down on a table and start probing him and doing different experiments on him. It's like a metal table. It's not all goopy and weird and stuff. And then I don't think that's all he remembers. He claims he remembers. He doesn't talk about how he escaped, how he got out, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So kind of like the movie, we're just kind of left to go, what happened after that? Mm-hmm. In reality, or what some people think, is that Mike Rogers, much like the movie, his logging company was not going to be able to finish the logging in time. The only way you could get an extension or be forgiven and not fined for not finishing your contract on time would be for an act of God, some kind of traumatic event that stopped you from being able to do it. And I guess Travis Walton and Mike Rogers were kind of either reading like a National Enquirer story about UFOs or watching a documentary before. The Waltons, his entire family, were obsessed with UFO stories and abduction stories. And he had told his mother a couple days before, Mom, if I ever get abducted, don't you worry. They'll probably let me go a couple days after I get abducted.
Well, carrying the life over with the book and all that stuff. Jeez.
Yeah. It's just like, come on. So of course, where he was supposedly abducted, there is a huge fire tower with a huge spotlight. And it's theorized that that light was used to simulate the fire so that the other people in the car, the Dallas, Whitlock, Hayes,
whoever the other people
Bobby people would believe it was fire and it was a UFO because they couldn't tell where the light was coming down.
Right.
Get freaked out. Travis would go down to the ground. Mike would take off and no one would be the wiser. Travis would go away for a while and then come back. And hopefully maybe the logging contract would be okay. Obviously, Travis comes back. It's a huge deal with the National Enquirer. I don't remember how much money it was worth, but it was just like he got a huge amount of money telling his story. He wrote his book, which was called Walton Experience, which was then renamed later to Fire in the Sky to match the movie.
Right.
Because he can't have a book without a now based on a major motion picture.
Exactly.
But apparently he was unhappy that they changed his story, which was clearly probably bogus anyway. And even Lieberman himself said, I don't buy this. I'm pretty sure they just took some acid one day and decided to do this story. And then to add further insult to injury, Travis Walton has been working on getting another movie made for this.
I saw that. Yep.
And he did not tell Mike Rogers about it. And Mike Rogers wasn't going to get any money for this project. So Mike Rogers a couple of years ago said, I no longer want anything to do with Travis Walton. I don't corroborate my story anymore. All that kind of stuff. And then 6 months later, he goes, we've figured it out. I've signed a contract. I'm now on the side of Travis Walton. It's like, it's too late.
Yeah.
It's just far too late for that kind of stuff.
So now that you know that, Mike, or now that you knew that story, does that affect how you feel about this movie when you know the truth is kind of mired in,
No, because although I'm definitely a believer in like I said, aliens and UFOs and all that kind of I could go down a whole rabbit hole with this stuff. I really don't believe 99% of abduction stories. So this guy wrote a book about being abducted and it's cool. It's fun to watch. I just don't buy it to begin with. So I just want to watch the movie and have fun and see the creepy aliens kind of stuff. I don't buy most abduction stories. There are a couple that are pretty interesting. I think visitation stories are more interesting than abduction stories.
Mm-hmm. I think that they, one other comment about the abduction and the story itself, Fire in the Sky, is there's a focus when Travis comes back in the movie, there's a focus on what he remembers and what he doesn't remember, all that stuff.
Right.
And it almost feels like when he remembers everything fully, the film feels it's okay now to skip ahead 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? How did he get over that trauma? Right. That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. There's no part of the story where we see Travis Walton becoming, ingratiating himself back within society, having a family, because a lot of people that really go through this kind of traumatic event really don't hold it together the rest of their lives. Right. So, but he is clearly somebody who has moved on in some way, where he's married his sweetheart. They have one kid, one on the way. He's in a really good place.
Got a nice house. Apparently, in real life, he became the foreman of a mill.
But we don't get any of that in the story, and I think that's kind of a misstep here, because if this Fire in the Sky movie is more about the people and less about the alien, the alien abduction is a part of it, but it's more about the people.
Which clearly is.
You have to show that for somebody that you've already deemed is now a main character, which we talked about.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You need to show that. And I think and the other thing was when Mike Rogers, when they first pick up Travis, when Travis appears and he's naked and they got him, his first call is to those 2 dudes from ARP.
I did not. I guess in real life that did happen.
Yeah. But again, that's not a smart move. That's not, because he shows up and nothing happens, and they do nothing and they just yell. And then and Travis's brother, who has one look,
mad,
beard, trucker hat.
I have a note about that. What's my note?
Got sick jeans, shirt, t-shirt tucked in.
Oh, if anything happened to my baby bro or my sweet ass neck beard.
Yeah.
It's shave your neck. That's not a look.
So there's just some stuff that happens in this movie that I just scratch my head. And then there's some decisions where you don't show stuff where, again, I scratch my head, because it's that would really be, that's really what I want.
You know what I don't like is that one dude in the bar, or the one dude in the bar, the diner that gets in their face.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the tough guy. It's they're supposed to be and then you see him again and he's talking to the TV. You're oh, they definitely got him. There should be a buildup in that character where a fight actually happens between them and nothing happens.
It kind of goes off it goes tangents and you never hear about it again.
Right.
John Ferguson from the Radio Times says, quote, Lieberman wisely concentrates on the emotional impact of the event on a close-knit circle of friends and family. Although the eventual revelation of the abduction is genuinely scary, D.B. Sweeney shines in the lead role and there's good support. So he's kind of saying what we're saying, but I think it's lacking some of the emotional impact in terms of the friend stuff. We're missing stuff there.
I don't believe that they're friends at all.
Well, Mike and Travis, yeah.
Mike and Travis a little bit. I would have liked to see a few more scenes where they're a little bit more friendly. It seems that they're a little almost adversarial at times in terms of certain things. And the other group, just they're not friends. David maybe kind of is friends with Mike because he's always around him.
But you never see him outside of Mike and outside of Mike at all.
Outside of, yeah. Well, you see that one scene where he's praying in the church at the very beginning. But yeah.
That's nothing.
And the DB Sweeney shines in this role. I don't think it's DB Sweeney's fault, but he's the goofy sidekick, and that's kind of how it's written. And then he's just gone.
Yeah.
Like, what did he do well? Scream real good when the aliens are experimenting on him? I just don't think he really had much to do. I think this movie is carried by Robert Patrick.
Yeah. Like, well, he's the focus of the movie.
I think he should be getting the credit over DB Sweeney.
He does because Chris Carter and Spotnitz were so impressed by his performance that they apparently led to him being cast as Doggett for their season.
I saw that, which I like because I always thought he was just cast because he was T-1000. Oh, let's get another sci-fi guy. But I like that he was cast because of this.
Well, that's what the note says. I don't know if that's true.
That's true to me now.
Owen Gleiberman from EW suggested that, quote, it almost doesn't matter if you don't believe any of the stuff. For a few queasy minutes, Fire in the Sky lets you meditate on aliens in your imagination. What queasy moments? When he's on the table?
I guess. I mean, the tarp is queasy. I mean, putting your hand in the decaying goopy guy is kind of gross.
That's a little queasy.
Yeah.
Chris Hicks of the Desert News, found it, quote, leans in favor of believers, suggesting that all of this really did happen, and some of it is fairly entertaining. However, he disliked the film's somber tone, and would have preferred it to be more humorous or satirical without necessarily sacrificing the sense that these characters believe it all. So he wants a comedy.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that. I don't see how that's possible to both have it be serious and honor like the story, regardless of whether it's true or not, and still have like that kind of seriousness. It's a serious story. Mm-hmm. It's about people accused of murder. Like it's not a comedy. No. That's a whole different movie. Sure. That's the movie Paul with Simon Pegg.
Oh man, I'm not a fan of that movie.
I remembered liking it, but I have no interest to go back to it.
How about, because I know I'm going to get to who you recommend it for, but I got a couple of things I want to talk about. One, how about the scene when Mike shows up in the hospital room at night and like, hey man, they just did to me, and then just gets into a fight with him. I'm like, that's kind of a dick move, dude.
Yeah. He's half in a coma. And you're like, well, screw you. It's your fault anyway, man.
Yeah. And then he's just like, all right, see ya. What?
Why don't you just go? I did go back for you. I got back like 5s. I dropped them off and I came right back for you. Boom. End of discussion. Yeah. No fight. It's just an excuse to get him out of the movie for the next 25 minutes.
Did you notice that when Frank Waters gets in his car at the end of the film, that his car has the biggest antenna I have ever seen on a car before? Did you notice that?
I did not notice.
He's got an antenna, obviously CB antenna, on the back of his car. And I swear to God, it clips trees as it goes down. And I'm like, that is a huge antenna. Like it was like, he's like, see you later. And the antenna is like hitting trees and ripping off leaves. One of the things I liked in this was when they're first doing the discussion and they're telling him tell the story, and they have that he lights the match and it lights the match in the story, the match transition.
Right, yeah.
I thought that was a really good transition. I like that.
I like moment. That. Yeah. I don't enjoy the flashbacks. I think it's like a little confusing to be at the truck driving and then you're in the diner and then you flash back and then like to the earlier in the day, and then you flash back to the actual abduction, then you're back to present day, and then Travis flashes back to the abduction. Like there's too many flashbacks.
Yeah. And I wasn't a fan of the music when Mike goes to the payphone to make the call. I don't know what music they chose there, but it was like really like not part of the movie.
Oh, I don't remember what the music
was. It was really goofy. I was like, I'm not a fan. And there's a moment in this movie where when they go and talk to Dallas and they have that fight, and because they want Dallas to come in and talk, and it's a 3-shot with them. The camera moves down. The camera like shifts down and then it comes back up. And
does it?
Yeah. And I'm like, so like you didn't have coverage. So that's the shot you took. Cause I'm like, and that happens again. That also happens in $1 Million Baby. I always remember this when they're zooming in on Morgan Freeman towards the end of the movie. It's like, it's like towards the last 20 minutes of the movie. And I think it's last one. It's zooming in on him. It's like dollying it, excuse me. And the camera shakes, but they kept the shot. I'm just like, the camera shook. Like, so this one, the same thing, dips down, dips back up. I'm like, what do we got here?
We're using it. We got the time. Time is money.
So Mike, would you recommend this to people? Who would you recommend this to? Would you be careful in recommending this film to people?
Careful?
Well, I mean,
explain careful.
Would you recommend it to somebody that doesn't believe like you believe? So they're like, you would be worried about them turning to you going like, all that alien stuff is BS, dude.
Well, first of all, I would probably only recommend this to people that like are either really into alien stuff, like I am,
Right.
or are really into the X-Files.
Okay.
Like, I think you have to be in one of those two camps, or obviously you can intersect in both camps. But I think there are better movies about, wrongfully accused people of crimes and stuff like that.
What about better alien abduction movies?
I mean, there are better alien movies where they come down. There aren't too many abduction movies that are like theatrical movies. There's a lot of TV movies. There's actually, it's probably out when this is releasing, but there's one about the Manhattan abductions coming out on Netflix.
There's not many alien abduction
there's
movies.
Not a lot of, so I guess in that case it's good.
It's usually TV shows that have that a lot.
It's not really theatrical movies. So I guess in terms of that, then yeah, this is like your only choice.
Yeah.
Go for it. This is one of the best. It's one of the only.
I mean, I guess you could say X-Files, the first one, but I mean,
that's not really an abduction movie either, though.
Well, she gets
Scully
abducted.
Gets taken.
Yeah, so he saves her. So
UFOs on Earth, it doesn't really.
No, I get it. I'm just saying, that's kind of one of them. Yeah.
Close Encounters, people are abducted.
Oh, you know what? I'm
down.
sorry. You're right. You're absolutely right. Close Encounters is by far better.
But that's like one.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Like
I just can't believe I blanked on that. Yeah.
Like I said, I mentioned Steven Spielberg's Taken, but that was a miniseries on TV. Like a lot of them are TV stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess if you are interested in that, I guess this is a good movie. But crime wise, like they try to present it as like a crime movie, kind of like a wrongfully accused in a small town.
It's like a mix of genres that don't work.
Yeah. It's just like, But the alien scene is really dope. So I would say go on YouTube and watch the alien abduction scene. If you like horror stuff, I would be like, this is really cool. Look what they did. And it's a smaller budget.
I think it's and I think it, like I said, I generally came away from this film positive. So I think it's a positive movie going experience, but I don't think it's necessarily like, grade A film.
Exactly.
I think
it's tough to recommend.
It's a good story, but it's not great story, like that kind of thing. It's just not, there's some stuff that's missing that I felt was missing.
If you're interested in the genre, and of course you can be like, I don't believe, and then you can go, I don't believe this crap. I don't believe the story they told either, but it's just cool to put it on the film. It was a cool story.
But there's no such thing as Iron Man, right? I just want to make sure everyone knows that.
What?
Well, why is it forgotten then?
That came out in the heyday of the X-Files, which is better. It's just better in every way. It tells similar. It's filmed similar. Like you said, the opening is absolutely the X-Files.
Right.
The UFO looks like a chicken pot pie now. Like the UFO does not look good in the movie. The alien abduction stuff does.
Do you think that there is enough public curiosity and sentiment and belief in aliens to remake this film and it would be a little bit more popular?
100%. At this time, like all the news things that are reporting on all these UAP, USO stuff, all basically say that the public is now split like 50-50, whereas it used to be way lower.
Mm-hmm.
But now half the population of the country, maybe even the world, believes. So I think that, that's why they get the Manhattan abduction story coming out. That's why there are so many documentary filmmakers documenting stuff, showing the same footage of the Tic Tacs, because people are eating that stuff up now. That's why I think this is like the time is ripe for Ryan Coogler to hunker down and start his X-Files reboot show.
What's a Tic Tac?
The Tic Tacs are what they call the UFOs that the Navy found. That zoom back and forth because they're shaped like a Tic Tac.
Okay. I think it's very myopic to believe that we're the only creatures, intelligent creatures in a universe. So
100%.
I think it's really stupid that it's almost common sense that there's no reason why it's common sense. It's myopic to believe that it's just us. It's also very egotistical to think it's just us out there. Because God forbid there's somebody that's more advanced than the human race. Ooh, God forbid.
But do you believe that they're here?
I think so. Why wouldn't they be? Why wouldn't you? If you are, wouldn't you put spies or embed people in a place you don't know to kind of get a sense of who they are and
if you're talking Star Trek wise, you want to.
Well, that's what I would assume.
You want to make sure these violent monkeys don't become so violent when they get out there.
I would assume that the whole thing, the whole idea of Star Trek, where you're exploring space and new world and exploring people, that's absolutely the case.
At best, they're vetting us to become members of a spacefaring society. At worst, they're zoologists, and we're their latest animals they're looking at in their Planet Earth documentaries.
Let's hope it's the former.
They got their alien Richard Attenborough. Here are the humans.
That would suck.
In their natural habitat.
Maybe they'll listen to this podcast. Can we get some views? All right, Mike. Why is it forgotten then? Did I already ask that?
I mean, we were going. Yeah, I was going, and then.
Okay, go ahead. Good.
So yeah, I think the X-Files. I think. That
I did ask that. I did ask why I was forgotten.
People believe it's ripe for a remake, but I think the X-Files is really kind of what kills it.
Oh, in a good way.
And it's not alien-y enough, I guess. But the alien stuff that's in there is really good.
All right, where can they find us?
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, if you're watching us right now, and wherever you're watching or listening to us, go ahead and give us a like, rating, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think about the Travis Walton experience, Fire in the Sky. If you believe in alien abductions, aliens at all, let's go nuts, but nothing too conspiratorial. Okay, we don't want to get flagged or anything.
Oh, really? We get flagged?
People go crazy about this stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
And if you want to support our show, we have a Patreon. Go on there. Sign up for it. Help support our show. We have exclusive episodes just for you guys. We have early access to episodes like our lead-up series. We have early access to our regular episodes. You get our regular episodes before anybody else. And you get to choose episodes during the season in our voting rounds, or even just straight up choose an episode if you really want to subscribe to some of our higher tiers. So go ahead, check that out. It doesn't cost much to join. You also get access to our Discord where you can chat movies with us 24/7.
And join us next week. We return. We're going 2005. We're going to watch the Nicolas Cage film, The Weatherman, another movie that Mike has never seen. So we're doing that next week. That's it. Thanks for listening to us talk about Fire in the Sky. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.
The truth is out there.
Everything does.